Okay, so we're going to be looking at a few filters today, and the uses of them and when to use them. The first one I'm going to be bringing up, these are all going to be sediment filters that we're looking at, is what we call, this is a 20-inch by 4.5 inch. It's what we call a melt-blown filter. Some call it a spun polypropylene. They're all pretty unanimous. Polypropylene is the type of material. The spun part is just the method used to make it. This is what we call melt blown because it's actually one solid uniform piece. Now some of them, in fact this one too, it's hard to see in this picture here, in this camera, but there's different layers in here. So this is a like 4-layered filter that actually has different microns per layer. So the outside one would probably be something like, I don't know, maybe like a 50 micron, going in would be 25, 10, 5, or, you know, just depends on the type of rating that this one is. This one particularly is a 5 micron. So what we're looking at here would probably be, just like I said, 50, 25, 10, 5. It's the most economical filter that you're going to find on the market. You tend to use these for almost any reason. If you don't know what you have, or if you're trying to find something more affordable, this is probably the one to use. You're not going to find one that's going to be cheaper, compared to the other two at least. But because of the way they're made, they're not reusable. You can't just use it once and then you know, wash it and reuse it again. Once they're used, you have to toss them out. Okay, but very good, great for holding dirt, silt, you know, any kind of like particle for that matter. But there's a couple other ones that actually do a little bit better. This particular one here is what we call a string wound. So string wound looks like this, and this one's a 5 micron as well. And they have the same pore, like the hole right here. This one here is also the same as well. Okay. Now, if you notice, they don't have any kind of O-ring here. They just kind of have just the material that it's made of. Okay. And the reason why is because the housing has this little circle. Okay, this little seal, and it presses down, and it'll compress right around this opening to create its seal. And once it creates a seal, then you're done, and nothing can really get past it. Now, in certain conditions or certain types of filters, it may require something a little bit different. But these particular ones, the string wound and the melt blown, those two do not require any kind of O-ring. Now, like I said, this is a string wound filter, and as it looks, it's literally like yarn being spun across this plastic core right here, and this core keeps its shape right here. Without this core, it would implode, lose its shape, and not work. So as you can see, this is the shape of it, and it is much better at holding dirt compared to a melt blown filter. A lot heavier, almost twice the weight. There's a lot of benefits to this. Typically you want to use something like this when you do have much more sediment than you know, your average conditions. Like well water, for example, would tend to probably use something like a string wound instead, simply because they have more dirt, more silt to go through. The last one that we're looking at, this one is what we call a pleated filter. And as you can see, this is basically like sheets, okay? And they're folded over and over again. This allows it to have several functions. One, it has more surface area, so you have less of a pressure drop compared to the other two. And it's not so great when it comes to holding dirt, mud, any kind of oil, grease. It's not great for that. It's great for separating particles, simply because of how thin this filter is. You can literally crush this filter, you know, and it come back to form. And this one particularly has a gasket here, okay? And you probably figured out why, because if there was none, then it would press down on the paper and it wouldn't seal. So in this particular case, it needs the gasket in order to keep its shape and create the seal, okay? Now there's other times when you'll actually see seals. It'll be like in laboratory or commercial grade filters that require some kind of seal for keeping out bacteria. It just depends on a variety of situations. But these are the three main types that you're going to see in the industry when you start looking for them. What works best for you might not work for everyone else. A lot of times, if you don't know what to get and you're just straight out confused, let's go back to this one. The melt blown is probably going to be the best and cheapest method to use. Your string wound and your pleated, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, okay? But they will be very different situations. A lot of situations that require pleated, a lot of times, because there's not a lot of sediment in city water, you're going to probably use a pleated filter. That or a melt blown. And again, situations that don't require much dirt holding or grease holding or oil holding, you're probably more likely to just go with the melt blown simply because of the price cost. So it's much, much cheaper. I hope this really helps. I hope this gets to you guys and in some way helps you clarify what you need. As far as microns go, there's always going to be 1, 5, 10, 25. They even go as low as 0.35 in some situations and as high as 100. What works is probably going to be a 5 or a 10 for most people. The lower the number is the smaller the pore on the filter itself. So you do filter out more. The downside to getting a smaller micron is that you have more of a pressure drop for one, and two, you're going to actually have a situation where it might clog up quicker. So you're going to have to be replacing the filters a lot faster. So if you want to kind of like minimize the number of times you're replacing the filter, then you're probably going to want to move up a little bit and go 5, 10, 25, whatever. But again, 5 and 10 is probably going to be the most common. In fact, 5 and 10 micron, they're probably very synonymous. If they run out of 5 micron, use a 10 micron. You're not going to go wrong. They're so close to each other. So it's not that much of a difference. When you go down to a 1 or even sub-micron, like 0.5, 0.35, you get to a level where like now you're able to, I don't want to speak for these particular filters, but 0.35 and 0.5, that's when you get down to cyst removing levels. Things that can, that kind of level can actually remove cysts. So, you're getting down to sub-micron levels where it's just much finer in the size of the pores. I hope that helps a little bit. Feel free to give us a call anytime. Feel free to write us, like us on our page, and if you have any if you have any questions, feel free to just ask anytime. Thank you.